Hello, everybody. Today we're talking about the fantastic Lamborghini Countach, which was best in its class in the supercar class. And really, who better to talk about it than two guys who are involved with Lamborghini? We have here Francesco Stevanin, who is coordinator at Lamborghini Polystorico, which is their heritage branch. And we also have Massimo, who is one of the judges on Concours Virtual, and he's also a consultant with Polystorico. So these guys really know their stuff. Now, this is obviously all part of Concours Virtual, presented by Haggerty in aid of UNICEF, and make sure you head to the site and have a good look at this Countach. First of all, I'm going to ask Francesco all about the Countach because it's an amazing machine.
Yes, of course. It's a story that starts from the 70s, I would say, because maybe every one of you knows very well the story of this car. Everything started in Genève. We are in 1971. So that moment coincided with the presentation of the prototype of the Countach. It was called LP500, the famous yellow car. The car has been, of course, designed by the master, Marcello Gandini, and everything related, let me say, to the engineering aspects of the development of the project was in the hands of engineer Stanzani. It was a very brave, very swift and prompt project because it was born in a very few months at the end of the 70s, and everything started from the desire to create a new icon so that to have the successor, the true successor of the Miura. If we make a rough comparison in between the design, the so-called dilemmas in between the two cars, even the Miura was really, really advanced as far as was a 60s car. The Countach was something that was never seen. It was very close to a spacecraft. And it was the anticipation of the so-called Gandini line of the wedge design that was typical of all Lamborghini cars. The prototype was in a monocoque construction, so that was quite different than the final car. There were a lot of air intakes that were missing. So even was a full operating car, Lamborghini decided to go, let me say, to follow more the simplicity. And talking about the green car, so the so-called 001 that is in Concours, even they are very similar. This is a very, very different car. It was the full pre-series model, so that all the developments are very close to the production and being done on that car. The car particularly was presented in two auto shows. We are talking about the 73. So that was a red, exterior red with a black interior in Genève, so the early 70s. At the end of the 70s, appeared in Paris with the verde medio, so the external green color with the olive interior, like is presented right now. A very little detail that is, let me say, very, very important, the interior. The car was shown in both the auto shows with the Bertone interior, so that the prototype interior that is characterized by the blocks on the seats, and this design disappeared in the production. But the very special tale of this car was that as soon as the car was used for the auto show and for producing the brochure, we are talking about the early 73, the car then was sold in 74 as a normal car. So the show interior was removed and was replaced with a so-called standard, if we can talk about the standard interior in a Countach in a tobacco color.
That's really interesting. Okay, and then what happened to the car after that?
Okay, the car went into Swiss, like the 002. It was a yellow car with a tobacco interior, and it was then discovered in 2003, around 2003. Lamborghini decided to purchase back the car. The car became part of our museum, of our own collection, and was used for some events. For example, was also used a couple of 3 years ago for the official launch of the Euros. But last year we decided to move back to the proper configuration of the 70. And it was again a huge adventure. It was quite challenging because of initially we just thought, okay, we need to reconstruct the interior to Bertone specifications. But as soon as you're dismantling the car and as soon as you're dismantling the interior, what we found were the true evidences so the so-called smoking gun, that car, of course, was the car of the 73, because we needed, for example, few paint touches of the seals of the car. Underneath, we found the red, so that again it was red and then green, so we found the trace of the color. But the huge exception was the interior, because as soon as we removed the leatherwork, we found that all the paneling has been made with aluminum alloy, so hand beaten, and also the floors are in steel. With the standard Countach, we have that all the structures for the interior, such as for the tunnel, the dashboard, and of course the floors are made of by fiberglass, so that those specific technical features makes this car unique. So it was an experimental car. And of course, you can ask to me, Francesco, how the Polystorico team was able to find the right grain, the right thickness, the right color of the olive interior, and the right, so that the right kind of leather. We found the traces underneath, of course, of the three materials. Of course, the last one, the tobacco interior, but we found some olive traces and black traces. So what we made was using photographs, sketches, and investigating in the interior, in the hidden parts of the interior. We were able to replicate in the best way, I would say, how the car appeared in 73 in Paris. Huge adventure, definitely.
Yeah. Did you have to try and choose between the very first spec in the red or the green, or were you always set on doing it in the green?
But we decided to move to green because of, let me say, it was the missing link in between the LP500 and the starting of the production. So actually the green with olive interior was the final stage before the project went into production. The car was already green. Even in the coming future, we wanted to refresh the paint job. And for this historical reason and also practical reason, we wanted to go through the olive interior.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
We have even, excuse me, we have even considered that by an historical point of view, when you have a car, an historical car that went through different passages and you decide to restore it, you should keep as much as possible of its originality. Meaning that, yes, you can express the wish, I would love to keep the car in this configuration, but the reality of the fact is that you should try to keep the car as much as possible as it still is. So if you have the configuration of the last show where the car has been, will be sad for the car to be reworked so much to bring it back to the previous show. So at this point, you try to stay with as much as is possible of what you already have in the car.
Yeah, that makes every sense. And as far as the condition goes, when it was found in 2003, it was in, am I right in thinking it was a Swiss barn it was found in?
Exactly. It was in a bar in the mountains. So there are still many people that are trying to understand how the car has moved on the mountains. So it was actually hidden in a barn. The wheels were in gold instead of silver, and the car was complete. It did a major service, but actually the car was, let me say, left in, like it was for a long time. So again, another mystery on a mysterious and a beautiful car, and special car for Lamborghini.
Yeah, it is amazing. And you'd better run us through a little bit about Polystorico, so we do understand what you do and how you were able to deal with this car.
So Polystorico, as you mentioned in the starting of this interview, is the heritage department of Lamborghini. So that we usually say that we have 4 pillars that are supporting the Polystorico, that are the archive, our restoration program, the certification program, and also the reconstructions of the spare parts. In terms of, let me say, day-by-day work on how we are used to relate with the collectors, we are able so that to provide partial and total restorations of our cars. And the cars of interest in Polystorico are moving on, of course, are moving from the 350 GT till the Diablo range. Even nowadays, we are including also some Murcielagos and Gallardos. Even they can be called young timers, but considering the production period of Lamborghini and the production figures, it makes sense in order to give. And going on with our keyword, that is a continuity. And about the certification, we have I would say, a couple of kinds of certification. The most known is the so-called certification of authenticity. So we are inspecting the car, inspecting the whole documentation provided by the customer. We are checking for the historical continuity. We are, of course, physically inspecting the car in order to check not only everything related to the originality of the components, but also, of course, if the metal, the parts in the car, so the bodywork, the chassis and so on, are fully conforming and so authentic, so that we are inspecting the so-called proof thing. And it take long. So an average timing for inspecting a good car would be a couple of weeks. In some cases, it could take more if we are needed to go deeper with some inspections. And at the end, so the collector is receiving the certification authenticity. For special projects in which Lamborghini was involved, they could be, for example, motorboats, so that the Riva Aquarama was owned by Ferruccio Lamborghini, or Formula One cars from the 90s with the Lamborghini engineering engine. I would say also we are waiting with a lot of desire and passion to inspect an offshore. Everything so that related that has been moved by Lamborghini engines, or that has something related to Lamborghini in terms of design, can be certified with the so-called historical authentication. So I think we can provide, we are able to provide a quite wide range of certifications, and that we are able to support the heritage of the brand of the boat.
Yeah, I was just thinking that is quite wide ranging. That's phenomenal. I know some of the things you do, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it. And I mean, Massimo, we've been on Polystorico events as well, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. One, even if it's not listed as one of the pillar, we all believe that classic cars, all, but still more if you are Lamborghini classic cars, they are really meant to be driven. So we, as Lamborghini Polystorico, we usually arrange once a year a rally or a concourse where owners of classics are welcome to participate, so they can really enjoy their car on the best possible road that we can find. And it's beautiful because you know, if you think the numbers of Lamborghini built since the founding of the company in 1963 to, let's say, very early 2000, we are talking about 10,000 cars. That is a number that is absolutely small. And so it's very rare to see two Lamborghinis in the same place. And even for owners, sometimes it's beautiful to drive around and see another Lamborghini in front of it or in the rear view mirror, because, you know, it's beautiful. It's a sort of camaraderie, and you have fun and you enjoy the car. You are feeling, probably you are just really feeling the best possible emotions that the classic Lamborghini can provide you.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely verify that. We've had some good times. So yeah, thank you guys. Now, as far as the green Countach goes, is that now back in the museum?
Yes, of course. As soon as now is exposed, the museum has been opened, of course, with all the safety restrictions, but it's still open to the public in the early July. And so you can see the car in person if you want to join us. So please let us know, David, and your team.
I'm thinking of all these people watching as well. So obviously you can view it on the website, and I do recommend having a really good go through there. But if you're in Italy, then the Lamborghini Museum is open, and this car is well worth seeing. So yeah, thank you so much, Francesco.
Thank you. Have a pleasure.
It's been fantastic to talk to you. And thank you very much, everybody. Keep watching for the next awards. Cheers.